everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Faujan. I'm the co-president of AI Research Club. We have so many amazing people here with us, and we really appreciate them. Thank you for everyone who have joined us. Let me introduce Misha Ghosh, our amazing guest speaker. He is an experienced financial services executive. He has deep expertise in banking data at ex-Wells Fargo, ex-Bank of America, payment data, and HCM data focused on enhancing the end user customer journey and experiences. He's an accomplished general manager, team builder, and hands-on data-driven decision maker with excellent communication skills and a flair for design thinking. He's the lead author or co-author of 89 issued utility patents and over 100 pending US and international patent filings. He's ranked the fourth most inventor in Charlotte. He's the founder of Ideas, a global inventor platform focused on uniting the global inventor community and mentoring up and coming inventors. He launched Real Income by ADP, a platform that leverages and payroll data to support new verticals. And he's the winner of MasterCard's Global Innovation Involved Challenge for 2014. This idea was based on a self-generated concept that was voted by MasterCard employees globally in May 2014 to be the most significant, innovative, and crucial market opportunity to bring to market. This led to the launch of MasterCard retail location inside SaaS enterprise solutions sold in the USA, Canada, UK, and Australia. Recognized by Bank of America as the inventor of the year 2008 for the most innovative inventions. We're really happy to have you here, Misha. Thank you so much for joining and taking the time to present today. Of course, everyone is excited. We have in-person people here. We have some people who joined over Zoom, and we really appreciate you. I'm gonna hand it to Rahul. He's going to have a chat with you over everything that you've accomplished. We really appreciate having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for coming over and having our guest speaker. So I think like every one of you are aware that this general GBM is more focused toward the patents, innovation, and how exactly as a student you can also have a path. So with this, I will hand over to Mr. Ghosh, and we will just begin with some of his success stories and some of his initial ideas, like his all patent journey. So at first, we will begin with Mr. Ghosh to share his patent journey, that how exactly he came up to this patent journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So, prior to patenting, I was under the impression that, patenting is basically left for...
Just a second. I think like we have some issue with the mic here. Just a second.
Okay, sure.
Let's try this time.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Ask everyone else if they can hear it, okay?
I think there's a issue here.
Okay.
Okay, sorry for the delay. Let's begin now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect, I think. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So your first question was my patent journey.
Yeah, and we want to be a little extensive.
Sure, sure, sure. Of course, of course. And uh, so prior to patenting, I was of the impression that, you kind of like, have to be kind of like, the IQ of Einstein and some other folks. And so it was only at Bank of America that I got acquainted with, how to file patents. So the intellectual property department was very, very helpful in guiding me through my first patent. And so I think like I probably filed my first application around 2006, 2007. And it was very, very helpful that, some of those patent attorneys kind of like, instructed me on how to fill out a document called IDF for initial disclosure form. So that's kind of like, where you document the idea that you have, and then you have to come up with very extensive documentation, and then they kind of like guide you in terms of like how you file that. And then after that, it's like once I learned the process, I started teaching my team. So I was managing a team at that time, in terms of like how to file a patent, right? So and one of the reasons you may ask, why is it important to file a patent? So one of the interesting things that happened, I think this was around March 16th of kind of like 2023, is the U.S. Moved away from the paradigm shift of first to invent or document to first to file. So the first to file is very, very important. So prior to this, I could just kind of like, show a napkin sketch. Oh, I came up with this idea on such and such date. So we moved away from that paradigm. And so now it's important to file a patent. And number two, once you do file a patent, you have exclusivity for 20 years from the date of application. So which becomes very, very important. And the idea has to be novel, unique, and also implementable as well. So once I discovered that journey, I started kind of like, filing more and more patents, and do realize that not all patents are going to be issued. I also have many, many patents that were never issued. And one of the challenges about patents, by the way, is that a patent is only published, a patent application is only published after 18 months. So within that 18-month window, you really cannot discover what other folks are thinking. And then you find out that someone beat you to that idea. So when you do get that idea and it's patented, you feel very good about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Of course.
So now I have like a very common question here, that
Yes.
when you talk about like it's like a 18-month of time period and you don't know that someone else might be working on your idea,
Yes.
then how exactly you take up your invention during that time? Do you still keep on working on a particular task which you were working, or you just leave it to the patent examiner?
You basically kind of like, leave it to the patent attorneys. Of course, in the meantime, I'm also doing searches regarding prior art, just to make sure that the invention that I'm coming up with is unique and novel and very different to what's out there. So it's very, very important to study the prior art. And that's actually also one of the reasons why I develop ideas, by the way, too, just so that I have an early warning indicator of all the applications. And as you know, navigating the USPTO site is not very easy. It's not very intuitive, right? So I tried to make it more user friendly. So that was one of the main reasons I developed ideas, just to make the lives of inventors easier. You can now make searches on keywords, and also compound words as well, so that if an idea like yours is being filed and developed. But still, everybody has that same 18-month blind window, by the way.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
We will come to your company at a later stage during our
Sure.
conversation. Before that, we have one question. Uh,
Yes.
that Would you like to share one of your invention for which you think like you are most proud of?
Sure. I would probably say out of all my inventions, I'm probably the most proud of my invention at MasterCard. So the way it came about, so at that time, the CEO of MasterCard was a gentleman called Ajay Bhanga, who is also now the World Bank president. And so he had this challenge to all of the global employees of MasterCard is what is the next big idea that MasterCard should be pursuing? And he also had the winning prize at $250,000, right? So this was prize money. And so that obviously prompted, all the 195 plus countries that MasterCard operates in. So all the employees started submitting all of the applications. And then of course I think and then what he did was he basically asked his executive committee to evaluate each of these ideas and to sponsor the ideas. And so of all the ideas that were presented, there were I think about 243 ideas that got sponsored. And then the 243 ideas, it basically turned out to be like America Got Talent, except that's MasterCard Got Talent, and turned out to be like a year-long competition. And so the 243 became 80, 80 became 60, 60 became 20, and 20 became 6. And the 6 finalists were asked to come to Purchase, New York, which is the headquarters of MasterCard, and present. And all the employees voted. And fortunately for me, I ended up winning 60% of the vote, so I won. And so now the question is, what was the idea? So the idea was that if you think about a retail establishment, the heart of any retail establishment is the point of sale device or a collection of point of sale devices. So you know how you could swipe your credit card or insert the card or tap. So if I can measure the amount of data that is passing to this collection of point of sale devices and compare them against one another, I can tell you the desirability of that location. So that and think of it this way: this is basically Mastercard's big exhaust data that's now being leveraged for another use case. And so that allowed Mastercard to move into the $13 trillion retail commercial real estate industry. And because prior to this, all of the data that was coming was mainly from the Census Bureau and other sources, and they tend to be a little bit dated, whereas in this case, it was real-time data. So that's probably the invention and also the prize money that kind of like, I think kind of like, among my favorite invention.
Okay, thanks a lot. Like this
Of
was
course.
interesting. And as you're aware that most of our audience are undergrad student and few grad student,
Yes.
not just for computer science, also from different department. So considering this as like a baseline and the foundation, what will be the one of the approach what you will suggest to the students to think in terms of innovation and then like further patenting their ideas, or maybe like how they might be like how they might be able to find out whether this their idea is novel, or what should be their approach?
So it's very, very important to find the prior art. And so, you should use some of these patent databases and type in the keywords, right? So I'm making it up. So let's say, you have some application on LiDAR, right? So you would go to these patent databases, type in LiDAR, and then see if your idea is already captured by any of the previous issued patents or has been captured by a patent application that's already available. And you could do the same thing even on the USPTO website as well. But understanding that would probably be the best way. The other way to do this is to find somebody who is a subject matter expert, like in your niche topic, since I mentioned LiDAR, try to find out and perhaps even reach out to that inventor and kind of like and have a conversation It's like, this is what I'm thinking. Do you think this is kind of like, novel? Though you have to be a little bit careful, especially if it's a competing university or a company, because next thing you know, they have kind of like, taken kind of like, your idea. So you have to be a little bit careful.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. So apart from that, our further question from the student is that they, I mean, I have personally used the your product ideas and it's like really, really helpful. But we wanted to hear from you about like how you came up with your company and what are the things it provide to the end user and what's the goal of it.
Sure, sure. So the USPTO back in 1998 stopped publishing a list of prolific inventors. And the reason they likely stopped publishing that was that we people, we tend to be mobile, right? So someone's in Chicago today, but 3-4 years later they are in let's say Miami, Florida, or they have moved to another country, right? So it's the constant changes of residences as well as changing of the employers and also the name as well. So sometimes some of the patent application is when it's filed, you've got the first name, you've got the middle initial, and the last name. Or in some instances, you've got the first name, the full middle name, and the last name, right? So how do we know that this is all the same person, by the way, right? So we solved for that problem, and that kind of like helped us. And I also wanted to make sure that we had the right data quality. So as a result, and just to give you some stats, there is a little over 5.5 million inventors since 1976, because 1976 is an important number or important year because that's when all the records were digitized. So prior to 1976, the records were not digitized, so easily available. So you'll basically get a copy. And so bottom line, once I had this data, I also made sure that I was kind of like ranking. So for example, like take my case, right? So I've got 89 issued USPTO patents. So I can say I'm like number 4 in Charlotte, North Carolina, probably around 150 in the state of North Carolina, and then also probably 5,000 some in the United States, and probably ranking 10,000 some in the world. And so this kind of like prompted other inventors to reach out to me and say, oh, by the way, the person that you see in Seoul, South Korea, and Bengaluru, India, I'm the same inventor. Can I merge the profiles, right? Because obviously, it's in our DNA to always rank higher. So that inventor badge actually helped solve a lot of the data quality challenges and problems. And so that was kind of like one of the essence. And the other thing, since this is like an AI club, the other interesting thing that I also did is that once I have the portfolio of patents, for each inventor, I basically used, like OpenAI's product to write a bio on each of these inventors, by the way. And this is something very interesting I learned about AI as well, because once I had all of these inventors, I had actually reached out to many of the prolific inventors via LinkedIn or email if I could find them. And I basically asked them, hey guys, can you send me a bio of yours so that I can copy and paste and put it on my website so folks can find you? And I literally had zero responses. Okay. And then I figured, hey, with the advent of OpenAI, I can actually do that bio myself. And that's exactly what I did. So I built 5.5 million bios, and lo and behold, many of the same folks reached out to me and basically said, "Hey, can I correct this? Can I or can I augment this with additional statements?" So this is one of the biggest lessons of AI that I learned, which is that correction is easier than creation. Okay, so and that's the beauty of AI when you think about it, right? So in the early days, and you probably have seen lots of Hollywood movies as well. Someone kind of like moving to Italy, who's a writer, but they moved there to get some inspiration to write their next novel. So at least thanks to Bard or ChatGPT, and you no longer have that writer's block anymore, right? You can get AI to kind of like, get you started. So those are some of the, use cases that I'm using to build ideas. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that really helps us. Now, I have a quick question here. I was going through your website and you have like a pyramid where you
Yes,
like if you have specific number of granted patent, then you are top 0.2, 0.5% of the top inventor. So
correct.
what does this signify and from where this data is being fetched?
Sure, sure. So the patent data comes from the USPTO via like a RESTful API. And the data comes every Tuesday, by the way. So that's why it's called Patent Tuesday. And so I'm taking in all the data, and then I'm combining with all the data that I have collected since 1976. So what's interesting, I mentioned the earlier number, 5.5 million plus inventors. So inventors with one patent, they're roughly about 52% of that 5.5 million number. And then, once you move up to, inventor with two patents, I think that number is closer to 17%. So when you think about it, 52 plus 17, you're already getting approaching 70%, right? So as you get higher and higher, the air gets rarefied. And one of the things that we also do is celebrate like inventors that have crossed 100. So I call that the Centurion Club. And so and there are some folks like they've got like over 1,000 patents as well. So it's kind of like understanding them. And part of my other, because I'm like a data scientist by my academic training. And so one of the other things I also want to see is, can I forecast tomorrow today, with the patent data? Because if you really think about it, all the technologies that are going to be coming out later this year and subsequent years, they're already in my database. So how can I use data science to figure that out? Right. So that's kind of like, like a challenge. It's kind of like a fun challenge. And with the advent of AI, it's definitely much easier. And of course, anything that I learn, I make it immediately available on the website.
Yeah, and one thing to share here is that like whatever you shared that with AI you can predict the future. I think the Gartner hype cycle, like this will be much better than the Gartner hype cycle, like whatever will be coming from the patent data.
Absolutely. And it's also very interesting. So yeah, like when you do modeling, there's a statistic called Kolmogorov-Smirnov. It's basically separating the goods from the bads, right? And
Mhm.
so some of the way that I am kind of like tackling this problem is I forget the exact stats, but I think like roughly 23 or 24% of the patents are never cited, right? And
Mhm.
so you look into kind of like all of the dimensions to solve that problem, by the way, right? You may also kind of like look at and eliminate some of the patents as well, because they've never been cited. So you're basically narrowing the base. And you kind of like also want to focus on kind of like more of the prolific inventors as well. And I also like to look at the number of inventors, because it also gives you an indication that the idea was vetted. Because I believe, Rahul, you also have some patents as well. And I believe, like being a fellow inventor, not all of the patents you have filed got granted, right? Many of them kind of like were turned down, or they came back to you and you had to vet them further as well, right? So it's a very similar type of a case. And one of the other things that I'm also trying to look at as to what's the next big idea. So for example, kind of like, let's take kind of like, the wonder drug Ozempic, right? Ozempic, Wegovy, and I believe Ozempic is protected by, I think, about 22 or 23 patents, by the way, right? And let's say 2 or 3 years ago, you could see Novo Nordisk trying to build out a patent fence, right? So you know that something exciting is happening with that company. And can you detect the next patent fence, right? So you could potentially, literally kind of like, forecast tomorrow today. So it's that type of analysis that I and like a lot of fellow students are kind of like, working on right now. And again, we're learning and sharing with one another.
Yeah, okay. So here's one question from the student.
Yes.
Uh, do you purchase patents? And if so, how do you identify and evaluate patents to purchase? What criteria are most important?
So I don't purchase patents. So typically, I'm kind of like, filing patents on behalf of the large companies that I work for. But one of the ways to know if a patent is valuable is to see how many times the patent has been cited by kind of like, other patents as well, right? And then one of the other metrics that is important to look into is the self-citation as well, right? So are you hyping your patent to yourself by coming up with future patents as well? So I've also come up with another metric that's basically excluding your self-patents, by the way, right? So I like to look at those numbers in terms of determining kind of like how valuable that patent is. And the other thing I also like to do is look at patents where there is some infringement thing going on with PTAB. PTAB is like patents, trial, and I forget the exact acronym, but it's basically when a patent is being litigated, you know that that patent is pretty valuable, right? So there are like several dimensions to look into that. And so and then, of course, there are like patent trolls, and then sometimes you can also get some of the pricing like at various patent auction marketplaces as well.
Okay. There's another question. What future trend or market change do you foresee impacting your business model? So I think the question might be related to the finance.
Sure, sure. So uh, the business model is kind of like, very, very interesting. And the future that I kind of like, see is that you may actually have billion-dollar businesses. It's actually being run by just one person and AI. And I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later, so probably within the next 5 years. I bet we'll probably see at least half a dozen, if not more, of these businesses. So it's definitely going to be impacting kind of like, the labor force as we know now. And the way I kind of like, think about it, and it's kind of like an interesting. So one of the interviewers, Philip Kahn, who invented the first camera video, he kind of like, said that AI in a way is the revenge of the construction worker. Right. So, like before, when you think about the Great Depression, it was kind of like, like the blue collar worker that got displaced. Now with the AI revolution, it's like the white collar worker trying to kind of like, figure out what to do next. And this is also one of the reasons why I feel that intellectual property, creativity is going to be very, very important because that's kind of like, how you distinguish yourself. AI is very good at knowing what has already happened, right? Based on all the documents and everything. But that creativity is still kind of like, residing with us humans. Of course, AI is always improving, but I think like, your creativity and your innovation streak is what's going to distinguish yourself from other folks.
Thank you. And this is another interesting question. Even I am personally interested in this question. So this is, how do you see AI and machine learning reshaping the domain of financial services. Now, this is very important, particularly in the area of risk management and customer experience, because like not everything AI will do for us when it comes to like a risk management, especially in terms of finance. We can't tolerate even like 0.0001% of like false positive,
Correct.
because if this is the specific instance where it gives us a false positive, then it might lead to million or even $1 billion of loss. So with this specific thing, how do you comment on the AI and machine learning for the risk management and customer experience?
Sure. So with the so these are like two slightly different kind of like in a question. So with customer experience, right? Some of the things that I already am seeing is kind of like more uniformity and a lot of, for example, call center calls are basically migrating towards digital channels, by the way, right? So there was a thing that kind of like roughly goes something like this, right? Data behave, people don't, right? Because the variance of how people, and of course, you've actually got like a like a script that you're reading as you are potentially serving customers, by the way. But a lot of those, once you migrate over to digital channels, can be more uniformized. So I think like over a period of time, we're not there yet. It's definitely going to get a lot better. And on the risk, there's like a lot of models that are also being developed as well, right? So that should definitely help. Now, remember, we'll never get to 100%, but we're going to get as close, as can be. So those are some of the things. And of course, you also have governance as well, because, like one of the biggest problems today is the hallucination as well. And also, how did you train the model, right? So did you train the model on kind of like, good documents, or were there kind of like, you trained it on a bad document as well, right? So guess what? At some point of time, there's going to be some references to that, and you may not be getting the results that you're looking for. So these are all evolving. But I also feel that over a period of time, it's only going to get better. It's a cat and mouse game,
Yeah,
it's like cybersecurity, Yeah.
that's so true. Okay, so I think like most of the questions which are coming now, they are more inclined toward that how exactly students should be patenting. So one question is, aside from the USPTO resources, what other tools and database do you primarily use for the patent research? And if you were, okay, so let's go with this question first.
Yeah. So honestly, right now, there were probably like a myriad of other databases that I used to use once upon a time. But this is my dog food. So I basically try to get all my answers from ideas, by the way, today. Right. So, like prior to ideas, like if I wanted to print out a PDF document, I would probably go to a different website. If I wanted to get a citation, I'd probably go to another site, but then I kind of like to figure, why not bring kind of like, everything under one umbrella, right? So that's kind of like, what I did. And then also in terms of kind of like, so most of my filings, by the way, I haven't done it myself. It goes through patent attorneys, by the way. And then also to identify which patent attorneys are most competent for the niche that you are applying for a patent as well. So one of the other things that I've also since done, you could type in any patent attorney firm, and you'll also get to see their clients as well, right? So,
Yeah.
or what you could also do, you could also compare and contrast, right? So you could put two patent attorney firms and kind of like see their competencies as well, by keywords. And so my goal is basically to make this as transparent as possible.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and you can also look at some interesting things. For example, if you want to find out about pioneer patents, right? So, for example, if you type in LiDAR, you're going to see that the first patent that was ever filed was in 1981, and how it grew over time. So you could basically use single keyword or compound keywords to kind of like identify the trends. And again, this thing again should assist the user in terms of understanding, is this a new trend? And that's some of the other analysis some of the students are also working on right now with me to understand when is a new trend forming. Right. So for example, like on the EV, it's powered by lithium batteries, but some of the future batteries are going to be based on graphene. So, when is that thing happening? And so it's that identification of a new trend, which is very, very important to folks as well.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Mhm.
And we have another question. If you were an undergrad college student today who
Yes.
wants to start researching but doesn't know how, what are the some tips you could give them?
Sure. Uh, you guys are kind of like so lucky. Like when I first went to so I went to college like at San Francisco State University where I got my bachelor's, and I went to UC Davis for my master's. And I think my graduate class at that time in Davis only had, I think, like maybe probably around 15 students or so. And those days, we actually had to go to the library to check out books. And sometimes it was so frustrating. I'd go to the library every day only to find out that one of my classmates has actually checked out the book. So I go there the following day to collect that, right? So you at least don't have that problem anymore. So if you had to do research, I would actually use ChatGPT, just type in your question and say, how am I going to do that research? And many times, like with topics that I am looking at right now, I'm also going to educate myself on YouTube, by the way, because some people are very visual. So that's something that I would highly encourage you to do. So I think like learning these days is so much more easier than when I went to school. So just think about it. You don't even have to go to the library. You could just do it from the comfort of your laptop. Yeah.
So true. Like right now, there's like so easy access to the information. It's just like time. We have to invest our time and have a goal what we want to do and get things done.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Um,
Well, and one thing that I think I'd highly recommend, by the way, is get a mentor, right? So one of the things that I also do, because I have the names of all inventors since 1976, and if I am looking at a topic, I'm basically going to find out who's the most prolific person, and I'm just going to reach out, and you're going to be surprised that 70 to 80% of the time they will actually respond. So I connect them via LinkedIn. And that's also one of the things that you'll notice, like for every inventor bio, you also, I try to put the LinkedIn profiles there as well. So that's easier to connect to another person. So that's something that I've done just to kind of like to make that research process as seamless as possible.
okay, I think like after this conversation, student might be reaching you on LinkedIn.
Oh, please, please, absolutely.
Okay. So this is another interesting question that looking ahead, what do you see as the most significant opportunities and challenges in the intersection of AI, big data, and financial services?
AI, big data, and financial services. Got it. Um, that one, it kind of like, it reminds me of a famous Confucius saying, those who know don't predict, those who predict don't know. uh, it's like one of the challenges also right now is the various copyright laws that AI is still trying to go through, as you know, right? Because there are a lot of these media publications that are saying, you know what, this is copyrighted content, and OpenAI and other similar companies, you used our data without our permission to train that, right? So there's a lot of regulations that's going to be that needs to be sorted out. So, and I don't think we're going to get like any immediate answer quite yet. And I also don't want to go out on a limb to say where this is headed. So I think I'll probably just wait and watch. Probably not the best answer you're looking for, but again, yeah. But it's a very good question.
Yeah. And I think this also you might want to answer. This is something like, how do you balance qualitative and qualitative research approach to gain deeper insight into customer preferences and market trends?
So one of the interesting things about big data is, you can actually use, especially these days, the entire data set if it's available. Qualitative is always kind of like, censored. So if it's not been sampled properly, you may see variances between the results that are coming out of the quantitative data that you've analyzed versus the qualitative data, right? So and then depending on, like, I mean, think about polls, by the way, right? It's like depending on who took the poll, you get varying and different results as well. So that's something that one has to be very careful about as well.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So do we have any further questions? Yeah, we have one question. If you want, you can come here. Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so one of the question from the student is, when you started a company, then what led you to ideate about it and be sure about that you really want to do this company? Is this the question? Yeah, this is the question.
Sure. Uh, Honestly, kind of like, you don't know, but I definitely found that there was a need for that, especially since there was a void left by the USPTO way back in 1998. And there has been no inventor first platform. So most of the platforms that you see, they're all kind of like, geared towards patents only. And of course, there are a lot of sites catering to IP law and patent attorneys, but there wasn't any site on inventors. So when you kind of like, think about it, right? So you've got patents and then insights, but the middle layer, which is the inventors, was missing, by the way, right? And since then, I'll kind of like, give you like the March traffic as an example, right? So we were visited by like, 85 plus countries, so that kind of like, speaks to the volume. And again, I get feedback all the time, kind of like, from students that's helping me with this project. So I know we're onto something. But again, kind of like, and again, anytime you make any information transparent and you network it. So one of the other things that we have also done, by the way, you can enter any company, any country, any city and state, and you'll get to see the more prolific inventors for that particular city, for that company. So now even companies don't even know who the most kind of like who all the inventors are, because they tend to have a lot of turnover. So companies may not know that some of their most recent kind of like employee is also an inventor, by the way. So and just to let you know, there are 260,000 cities in the world, right? So now you could type in any city and you'll get to see it stack ranks it, right? So it's all about and my goal was pretty simple, right? If we have two prolific inventors talk to one another, you can actually create even more ideas. So think about two prolific inventors having coffee at Starbucks, just a half-hour conversation, you're going to have 30 new ideas.
So many ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we are coming toward the end of our, sorry, we have a question.
Yes.
I wanted to ask him, since he's like like a founder of a company. I'm not sure how much hiring he has to do for the company, but if he does have to hire people, what kind of like traits do people stand out when he's hiring?
Okay, so the question is that as you are already having a company, then what kind of traits you will be looking
Like you hire.
for the new hires?
I see. Yeah. Eh, so there are kind of like, three subtle things that one has to always look for. It's like, does the person have the subject matter expertise? Okay. And will the person be willing to do the work? And I think the third and the most important thing is that can I get along with this person, right? So it's all about the competency aspect of it, but again, then also like, will the person want to do it? And the getting along, right? So whenever I hire anybody, even all the big companies I've been with, it's always that same question I ask, because, and of course, you also have to make sure the cultural and the personality blend. Because I've heard so many stories in the Silicon Valley that if you make especially your first hire, kind of like, if it's a mistake, it can potentially tank the company.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So, by the way, like I think like we are coming toward the end of our session.
Yes.
So, just with like concluding, Professor Karen, do you have any question? Okay, 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 okay.
I'm not a professor. I am staff in the School of Art, and this is a topic that's very interesting to me. And I think artists have a very different perspective. And so I'm really curious about what you guys are doing. And I do have some ideas for, I don't know, things that you could work on campus. And I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I will reach out to you. Okay. So, any, are there any closing thoughts you would like to share?
Sure. What I would kind of like, say to all of you is try to meet with folks that are not in your sphere of influence. Okay. So, reach out to that stranger that kind of like, shares in your value. So, for example, they may have written an academic paper. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, because you'll be surprised that serendipitous meeting with a stranger can be very transformative. And also meet new people like at conferences that you go to. I think that is very, very important. And the other thing is communication, right? So wherever you go, any company, it's like, how can you influence them with your thoughts, by the way? So definitely invest in better communication.
Okay. Yeah, so just to conclude, I will just thank you so much for giving your time and
Yep.
sharing your valuable thoughts here, which is really helpful for the students.
Great. Thank you so much for having
Thank you
me.
so much. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Okay. Have a good evening. Thank you,
You too.
everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye.